one of the things, our next guest is Adrian with Melton. And my real question to him, well, on two folds, is what have they seen on the construction end? Because I know what I've seen on the sales end, and I'm curious whether there's consistency amongst that. What have they seen from their clients' demands? And then we'll talk a little bit about cost of construction and supply chain and the issues and the challenges that they faced. But Adrian, if you want to just sort of take it from there.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. I'm glad to be a part of this roundtable. So yeah, I think most of the people on this call, the industry was a little scary. We had about 1 month, March, April-ish, where the phone just stopped ringing and we were all staring at the governor's mandates like it was my kids watching or reading Harry Potter. I remember one night up at like 11 o'clock waiting for that update to see if we're going to be considered essential. And luckily, remodels, residential remodels were always considered essential. So that was one check box that was checked so we could still keep doing work. Now the next question was anyone going to be interested in having us come into their house and remodel their kitchen or build a new home? And like I said, we had 3-4 weeks where the phone slowed down significantly. And as a company who's been around Boulder for 30 years, and we have about 50, 60 mouths to feed that are primarily Boulder County residents, it got a little scary. And then it just started going a little bonkers where the phone started ringing off the hook. And frankly, it hasn't really stopped since then. And it's pretty obvious. People are, they're stuck in their house a lot more. That pink backsplash is a lot more offensive to them than it ever was. And they also have a little bit more cash on hand and they're not going out to dinner. That $10,000 Hawaii vacation is now, not part of their plans. And so they really started thinking more about what they need out of their home and picked up the phone, and Melton's been happy to help them out with that. And part of your question that you had introduced was, what are the needs? Are the needs of homeowners changing? And that's been a really fun and interesting, part of this whole equation is, and in twofold, you've got people want to have connection to nature, big accordion doors that they can open up their house and they can make the outdoors a little bit more of a extension of their kitchen or living spaces so that they can maybe do some level of entertaining without feeling like they're stuck inside. And with Boulder's temperatures, we get a lot of that just as of 3 days ago, you can tell. And so you've got people wanting to be outdoor and get fresh air, connection to nature, and then you layer that on top of what Noel and Scott and yourself, Steve, have already commented on, is a lot of people are leaving the coasts who are used to having wide open floor plans and being able to feel connected, having a accordion, a Nana window or Nana door out looking towards the ocean or some nature. And so we are seeing that connection to nature a lot, really big landscaping plans. And then you're right, every basement's being finished because mom and dad, everyone, the homeowners are now being forced to work from home. We're doing a ton of quick offices to get people organized and being able to operate at a high level. And then, boomerang kids, we had a lot of projects where we were going to remodel a kitchen and a bathroom, let's say, and suddenly we switch gears because their 2 kids are coming back from college and they need some space for them. So it's been interesting, but it's been a lot of fun.
There was an article, Adrian, in the New York Times a long time ago that said the open floor plan is dead. And I disagreed with that article. And the reason they said the open floor plan is dead is now that people are wanting to be sequestered in their own space. Their kids are locking themselves in their bedrooms, and their comment was we are now all living together, but we all want to live a little separate. It sounds like that you're reiterating my belief that the open floor plan is not in fact dead, that people are still looking for that concept. Is that true?
I think it's actually somewhere in the middle. The way that I usually explain it to clients, especially when they're looking at a new home and I'm coming out to help assess what that home might be able to be from a design standpoint and a budget standpoint to do the remodel. I always say from cavemen to like the 80s and 90s, we had very compartmentalized floor plans. The kitchen had 4 walls, the living room had 4 walls, the dining room had 4 walls. And then it switched completely. The pendulum went to the opposite side, where we are just nothing but open floor plans. From a structural foundation standpoint, that's relatively easy, especially with the technologies that have arrived. And now I'm seeing that kind of pendulum land somewhere in the middle, where, because open floor plans, yeah, when you're trying to cook the Thanksgiving meal, and you got a hot mess and you're burning the potatoes, the whole world is right in your business. The whole world can see it, and that's not fun. Plus the noise level, the kids running around, it just echoes everywhere. And then you've got art placement. A lot of our clients in Boulder, they're art collectors, or at least they have a couple of pieces and they need somewhere to hang that art. And then furniture placement can also be a little complex when there's no walls to put the sectional couch up to. So I'm seeing it land somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. And you want what I usually say is semi-compartmentalized. You want a couple of walls to break up the space and bring the noise levels down a little bit, yet you still want the space to feel as big as it can. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's somewhere in the middle. I'd agree it's not dead, but it's just been revised slightly.
So segueing away from that, there obviously was a big topic of conversation has been the cost of construction and supply chain issues. Can you speak to a bit of what you've seen and where you anticipate that going? And are we actually going to normalize from a construction cost perspective?
Yep, great question. So let's hit supply chain lines first. And so you're right, there was some pretty major disruption. The cabinet company in Omaha now has to go to 50% capacity. And so they're churning out, half as many cabinets as they expected. And so the lead times, things that usually would take a month or two, are now still to this point, are taking twice as long. Any good contractor understands that and isn't going to demo the kitchen until they know exactly when the countertops are going to arrive or the cabinets are going to arrive, so that we don't demolish half your house and then sit for a month while something's coming in. So that's a pretty easy workaround. There's a few things. Anything coming from overseas is still taking a lot longer than it should. But again, that's in most part become either normalized, or any sophisticated contractor can make amends with that and figure a way out of that. The trouble is right now still is the construction cost. And it's funny, Scott joked with me yesterday about, hey, Adrian, when are you going to get these construction costs to get lowered? And really I'll position the same question. Hey, when are you guys going to get residential real estate prices lower? And they certainly mirror each other in a lot of aspects. It's just supply and demand. And so all the trade partners throughout Boulder County are, drywall and painters and plumbers and mechanical and electricians. They're all just really busy from this influx of people buying homes who want to remodel them. And so, I'm not seeing that end anytime soon. As a company like us, we've had to reach out. We're tapping into Fort Collins. We're tapping into maybe even Colorado Springs, because some of those places that weren't as affected by everyone, the influx, maybe have a little bit more realistic pricing. And so we're battling that. As a company, we're trying to actually absorb some of those costs so that we're not passing them on directly to our clients, but it's difficult. And so we're getting multiple bids. We've got a very intimate trade pool of people that we like to work with, and we're expanding that a little bit to make sure that we are getting as competitive bids as possible. Yeah. And then so that's labor costs and a little bit of strain there. And then you've got material costs and lumber, as most of you will know, lumber doubled in 4 months, which is never since, I think it was like 1920, have we ever seen an increase in pricing that significant in lumber. That's been the biggest one. Steel has gone up. I've been on the phone with a bunch of different lumber yards, and we're seeing that level off. And then the next question is always, okay, will it go down? And I'd say, much like Boulder real estate, you don't really ever see it go down. we all just become a little bit normalized to it and become kind of normal. It just feels, okay, a house in Lafayette's 400K. That's weird. It was 200K 6 years ago, and now it's 700K, and now it's 800K. And so we kind of get a little bit more acclimated. But I'm anticipating a few material costs to go back down to reality, and labor to go back down to the norm. But as it's gone up and then it goes back down, and then we just have annual increases in pricing. So I wouldn't expect it to ever go down unless there's something major, a major recession. Then we might see it, but that's also the same time that nobody really wants to do, throw $100,000 into their house during the middle of a recession unless there's a good reason. So.
And it's interesting, as I hear you saying this, I can't help but think that our industries are dovetailed with each other so well, because the alternative to buying an existing house is remodeling or building. And the residential real estate world, when construction costs get real high, all of a sudden purchasing what instead of remodeling or building, purchasing starts to become more viable, and the two of them kind of play off each other. So it's an interesting tipping point between the two. I've had many clients go through that discussion of, do we build or buy, and largely it's related to construction costs.
Yep. So I do the same thing. Costs
go up, ours do too, because they relate. Yeah.
Yep. I have the exact same experience where people ask me to come out to the house. They've got all these dreams of what they want to remodel in their house because they love the school system and they got friends in the neighborhood. And then I usually shatter their dreams, unfortunately, and say, okay, well, here's how much it's going to cost to do all of these things. Then they go, all right, maybe we'll just sell the house. Then they call one of you guys up. You shatter their dreams a little bit with, what's the Boulder County real estate market and how tough it is these days. And then either they buy, or then they call me back up and say, okay, let's prioritize what we need to get done now. And we come up to an appropriate solution.